Hey YouTube, I was just in my apartment telepathically contacting extraterrestrials like I have almost every day for the last several years. And I think I've mentioned I mentioned this in my previous videos that I don't believe it's all just they're all just fantasies created by transdimensional grid work. I mean, I'll put a link to that in the to something I wrote about that in the description. That I basically I myself was actually subject to what I suspect to be a transdimensional gridwork hoax for several years, and they were nice, they were pleasant to think about, but it reminds me of fictional planet Tralfamador in Fahrenheit 451. It's not like a real, what they might call UFO crew, where after you're starting to have a CE2 contact, it's been years since I've had a CE1 contact. What I noticed, I think I'm having a near CE1 experience right now, and I'm having, hey, are you there, buddy? Is it you? I think I'm having a near CE1 right now. And it's CE1 being when I almost say the extraterrestrial UFO occupants right in the timeline, like, hey, here I am. Don't say Vrillmeister so-and-so. I don't know if that counts as when Vrillmeister so-and-so walks off like, hey, it's me Vrillmeister so-and-so. Yeah. How did I get to this part of India? Yeah, not quite occurring, but strange occurrences happen with UFOs, and they're real to people, or I want to call them anti-gravity vehicles maybe. And it's been, sorry I haven't drawn a picture of him. It's been several years since I had an encounter with this being called Boro. He's large, it's about 6'5", he's brown, he's really burly, and this is not a joke where I'm making up like some African-American person. He's definitely not originally from Earth. Or I don't suspect he's originally from Earth. And that's not why I was going to do this video, though. Why I was going to do this video is I thought it was a Nerami extraterrestrial contact me. I'll try to put a link to somebody in the description who is involved with Nerami extraterrestrials, and you might be evaluated for contact with Nerami extraterrestrials, said they were called, when you find this person. And I agreed completely with Nerami during this telepathic contact I just had, where people who've had mind slave experiences before, who felt like they had like a mind control experience, or psychotronics technology, I call it, machines that affect human mind experience, people who've had like a slave experience are to be believed. Please don't dismiss them. Please do not dismiss them as, this is just a mentally ill person, and there's no such thing as psychotronics technology. Because I think because they're currently part of the active operations of not just our government, but in the MK Ultra programs or MK Search programs. Because psychotronics technology machines that affect the human mind are used in MK Delta programs internationally. There are people out there who have used psychotronics technology unethically before. And how do you find accountability in this 21st century scenario with synthetic telepathy technology? I think I need to find a better written introduction to synthetic telepathy technology than the one I have on hand right now online. I know there's a lot of people out there blogging, going onto video sites about it. Working on my pronunciation, and I'm not going to say it's so psychotic being an actor and it was all just like Hollywood movie magic and there was just like a guy in a costume, because I don't know if I should go on about the CE1, but he just like appeared and disappeared right in front of me, and it was clear he was like right there, and I don't feel like he was hassling me, like hey, I'm right here. And I think that's Buddy's job, and they just call him Buddy. I think there's Boro, and he said like his the being who's kind of like his brother's called Yar, and I kind of want to draw this picture of him where he's taller, and he's larger than the other. I'll call the other extraterrestrials that could have a similar description of him. And you could have convinced me he's a real extraterrestrial. He seems like a real extraterrestrial. He seems good-natured to me. And And so that's why I agreed to do this video with Nerami, is people who've had mind slave experiences are to be believed. If they felt like, if you find somebody online who's who believes themselves to be having like a mind slave kind of experience, sometimes they get into the habit of being made to write to different government agencies, like, you go to the computer and you report this. And if you give them any advice, you might ask them to say, may I please activate with non-human personnel? Because I actually had like a mind slave experience for a year or two when I just graduated college. I just graduated university about a decade ago. And, you know, it all stopped when non-human personnel activated with me. And I don't think I was able to stay active with non-human personnel because the kind of training I was given. Oh. With the, you know, and the kind of training I was given was completely unforgivable, completely unacceptable in any representative democracy, as people would say. Is that where they would go, if you had this kind of experience, it's unacceptable to say that that represented a democratic republic. That's not an acceptable kind of program to have in a democratic republic, is the kind of experience I had. And so when I see mind slaves out there, I tell them they're to be believed, because I myself had a mind slave experience for several years. And if you've ever felt like you've been a mind slave, like the handler won't leave you alone, definitely see if you suspect to work for a government agency, contact the government agency. Just go right onto their website and be like, excuse me, yes, I'd like to activate with non-human personnel. If the agency, and several government agencies here in the USA have non-human personnel where extraterrestrial will saunter right out like, yes, hello, here I am. Actually, is actually quite possible to cause. That's my sincere suspicion. One of my concerns with this, though, is that asking to activate with non-human personnel, the simulated contact department will also go, excuse me, I want to activate transdimensional grid work on you to make you psychotic about extraterrestrials, sir, madam. And I also had an experience like that for years. So I don't think people who've had a mind slave experience are exclusively suffering a true psychosis. But once you feel like a slave, that's enough to make anyone psychotic that's enough to make anyone feel so psychotic that you want to go, yeah, no, I'm going to go fight you, but I want to fight you somehow. But how do you fight the psychotronics technology oppressor? How do you affect the oppressor that has access to a satellite without going, okay, extraterrestrial, I have to involve you because the satellite's like a UFO. The satellite's important to a UFO. And I don't think everyone who's ever, well, there we go. You know, I need to collect my thoughts for just a moment, because slavery, that's enough to make anyone feel a bit uppity. And when it's deniable, when it's done with a technology that might be considered deniable or might be not completely deniable because of the nature of the technology and how the government works. I don't want to say thank you who's ever on ComSat 2 with me. Okay, so thank you who's ever on ComSat. No, because is there a ComSat 1, ComSat 2? How does this really work? I'm sorry to mix my details of extraterrestrials and psychotronics on the same channel, because I know people out there need more of this information about psychotronics to be accessible to the public, and that's going to help our country as a democratic republic to maintain any vestiges of democracy that are remaining in our country. Because there are people who want to use, like, hey, I want to use military special procedures, I want to go into, I mean, there's really such a corrupt element in our military where they go around going like, hey, it's me, I want to have civilians executed in their homes and just call it like emergency national security procedures or something. And they want to institute like this fascistic overlay of our republic where they could go, well, it's a republic, not a democracy, and they could go around and go, here we are, the level of a corrupt republic. What do I do without Weimar Republic 2037? And so there are certain online circles you could go into to get noticed by extraterrestrials, and I do not recommend against that necessarily for people who've had a mind slave experience. Again, they're to be believed. I hope the gentle viewer does not dismiss them as just a mentally ill person, because Basically, once you feel like you're having the experience of slavery, that's enough to make anyone feel psychotic enough to say, hey, I don't say in other countries they say, hey, we're going to have a row about this. But really, people are out there who are unethical users of this technology. In the past has been a concern in our country. And once I found out about how accountability works in government operations that use psychotronics technology, I felt a lot better in some ways. In some ways, I felt a lot better. And so to reiterate, yes, I basically had a mind slave experience for myself for I almost was to the better part of 2 years. That was over after 2 years or so. And so what I tell people is don't use Twitter. Stay off Twitter. Twitter's too insane, possibly. And so that's it for now, YouTube. I just wanted to say, I believe people who've had mind slave experiences and give them hope. Give them hope, because I know for myself, when I started taking control of my soul, when I started somebody working with spirits, I went, that I could control my own mind. I could control my own mind better when I could summon the spirit. It goes right into theory of mind, right? It's a higher level topic of philosophy. And then, what's in your soul is informing your mind. And then you can control your own mind better once you can control your soul. And so I feel so bad for people who don't want to take control of their soul. I don't understand that at all. So you can be too skeptical, YouTube, if there's nothing that can convince you. I don't know how to finish that sentence, other than please believe people who say they've had a mind slave experience. Please believe that. Believe them. They're out there. And my name is Brian Hess. I'm from Portland, Oregon, and I oppose slavery.